Let me try to record this. So it's going to be useful for your EPT tomorrow. We're going to be doing a bit of a twist, which is positive. There's nothing to be scared about. Uh, we're going to try to include proofreading in your writing test. I'll tell you more about it. But for now, what is proofreading? Okay. So for those of you who are in the campus, I can give you a hard copy later on. But for now, let's just use this. So what is proofreading? Okay, we have to understand the writing process. Okay, remember I told you about the writing process before, and when you finally take your classes, it's going to be useful because it will keep you sane. It will keep you from going crazy. You know, why do I say that? Uh, so when you write for the first time, what's your priority? Put your mind into paper. Whatever it is in your mind, put it down into paper. I mean, focus on the content. Focus on the content. And when we focus on the content, our minds should not be focused on grammar, spelling, punctuation, or any technical thing. So just focus on the content. If your professor tells you, for example, that okay, write this down or do this or do that, then that's what you focus on. You're still going to be writing in English. I wouldn't want you to write. Some students are cheating. They would write in their language and then Google translate it. And your professors are smart. They're going to be able to identify that, oh, what is this? It sounds so unnatural. The English is so unnatural because it's translated from Google. So many of your professors would come to me and they would ask, well, what is this? Why is he using this word? Why is, oh, we figured out, oh, they're using Google Translate. So please don't ever do that, okay? All our efforts in the English class would be useless if you're just going to use Google Translate. And you're not going to be able to learn and practice what you've learned in English. So, first time, write down your thoughts. And then after that, then comes the revising part. After you finish in one sitting, ideally in one sitting, like if your professor asks you to write um, a reflection paper, try to do it in one sitting, like so that you will be able to focus well, and your thoughts will be coherent, connected to each other. And again, focus on the content, don't focus on grammar. If Microsoft Word is telling you, oh, you should change this, you should change that, just ignore him for a while, okay? Because there's a time for that. All right, after you finish your writing, then comes the revising part, or what we call proofreading. Proofreading. So normally writers will have a proofreader. They will pay a proofreader to edit their papers, to revise their papers, and they usually pay a lot. But for us, um, you will have that. Kuya Brown is going to be there, and you don't need to pay him. But um, before you give it to Kuya Brown or to any of your tutors, I want you to do it yourself first, because it's going to be helping you in in growing or improving in your English. Okay, so after writing, proofreading. So what are we going to do? Okay, let's read it. Your paper, it says here, is not done until you're done proofreading it. So after writing, your job is not yet over, because you possibly have committed some errors in spelling, grammar, punctuation, and mistakes are normal even among professional writers. Mistakes are inevitable in writing. Okay, when we say inevitable, it's going to happen. Okay, we cannot avoid it. We should not try to avoid it the first time we're writing. That's why proofreading is necessary. So proofreading is rereading your work and making necessary, okay, let me highlight it, revisions. So reread it aloud if you can and make the necessary revisions. If there's something to correct, you correct it. How do we proofread? Okay, first step. First step. May I ask Ateola to please read it?
After finishing your paper, set aside your paper for at least 15 minutes. Doing so will help you spot mistakes. So take a walk outside or play with your kids. Do anything that will divert your attention away from your waiting.
Okay, okay. So walk away from your paper.
Walk away.
Forget about what you're writing. The reason for that is you want to get a fresh mind, a fresh mind. Um, I can attest to this. I also do my papers, assignments, sermons, and this is really helpful after having sat down for an hour or um, 30 minutes. It will give you a fresh mind. It will refresh your mind. So this is something that's going to be helpful for you. So when you come back and read your paper, you're going to have fresher lens. You're going to see your paper from a different perspective because now you're not the writer, you are the proofreader. You're taking on a different role. Okay, so this is going to be helpful. Even professional writers are doing this. So um, this is going to be helpful. Okay, step number 2 is okay. Kuya David, could you read step number 2?
Mm, check the clarity of your sentence by reading your paper aloud. Are all your sentences clear? Are there sentences that you can make more understandable? Can you use more appropriate words?
Okay. So the first thing you should check is not grammar. The first thing you should check is your paper clear? Okay, is it understandable? So if there is are there words that are not so clear? Are there vocabulary or words that you used that can be replaced by other words for clarity to make your writing clearer? So this in this step, you want to focus on the readability. We call that readability of your paper, of your writing. Okay, so don't focus on grammar yet. That's for step number 3. Just focus on the clarity of your thoughts. Okay, this has nothing to do with grammar. So focus on the meaning. Is that clear?
Yes.
Read it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now let's go to step number 3. After you figured it out, so basically, oh, by the way, I want to emphasize this. Read your paper aloud. Aloud. When all your senses are working, like your eyes, your ears are working, it's it's like you're really playing the role of a proofreader. This time you're not the writer. You're not just the writer. You are the proofreader, and um, you know, some of us are more. We can spot more unclear sentences if we try to read aloud, because we can hear ourselves and we can pay closer attention to what we're reading because all your senses are working. Some would even ask other people to read it for them, to read it for them. So if you have if you're sitting with a friend or your spouse, you can ask them to read it for you, and they can say, they can give you feedback. Oh, I think this is not so clear. What do you mean by this? So the moment someone asks, "What do you mean by this?" Okay, there's a problem. There's a problem. If he cannot understand it, then maybe your professor will not be able to understand it as well, right? So it would be useful. And some people, if you don't have someone to read it for you, you can record yourself. Some people will do something like this. They would record themselves, and after that, it will be like a different person reading to them, and they will play that and listen to themselves, and oh, that's not so clear. That's not so clear. Maybe we can change that a little bit, or would this word be better for that for that sentence, something like that. Okay, so very, very important step. Don't skip this. Don't skip this, because you might have a grammatically perfect writing or paper, but and I've seen that. Believe me, I've seen that. Some people would use grammar checker or Google Translate, and they would get the perfect, grammatically perfect sentences, but it's not so clear. What they're trying to say is it's not so clear. Okay, so after step number 2, let's go to step number 3. Okay, this is going to be the longer part, because this time we'll be checking the spelling, grammar, and punctuation. So these are some things that, in my observation, students make the most mistakes. But of course, this is not complete. This is not complete. There are other things that we can address. But this is a good start. Let's have Kuya Ananta to please read the first one.
The first one is about the spelling. Are all your words spelled correctly? Like I before except C,
I before E.
I before E, oh, so yeah, I before E except C, like example, believe and achieve, perceive, receive, and last one, ceiling.
Okay, could you
And
stop right
second
there?
point,
Just for a moment. So did you get that? This is a general rule. Whenever you have to use I and E together, um, almost all of the time it's I, E. I before E, except when you use C. Okay? Just like this, believe, IE, achieve, IE. But the moment you use C, then it becomes switched. Perceive, EI. Receive, EI. Sealing, EI. Okay?
right?
Yeah. Okay, Kuya Nanta, could you read the
Yeah.
next one? Watch out.
Kuya,
Oh, yes, Kuya.
may I just, this is so important it is used so often. There is actually one more line. In school, they make you learn a little 2-line poem that helps you remember that. May I just get them to write this down if they don't mind? This is so important for spelling.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
The first line you have there, they will make you say, I before E except after C. That's the first line, just as Kuya has just told you. But the next line is also important. It says this, or when sounded like A, as in neighbor or way. So whenever IE or EI is in a word that sounds like A, when you say love your neighbor, the E comes before the I because it sounds like an A. Or also the word weigh, like you are weighing some fruit. So I before E, except after C, or when sounded like A, as in neighbor or way. That's the poem they make us learn in school.
Okay, let me write that down. That's very important, Kuya. Okay, let me just. Okay, give me a moment. That's very good. I've never heard of it.
No, it's the one that we had to teach our little girls. Of course, they used to hate having a grammar teacher for their father, but they'd be going around going, yes, yes, Daddy, I before E, except after C. But they would learn it. Or when sounded like A, as in neighbor or way.
Okay. Yeah, could you repeat that?
Yes. I before E, except after C, comma, and then the next line, or when sounded like A, and then that's the long A sound, or when sounded like A,
like
the
this?
letter A, yeah, A, I think, as in neighbor, yeah, whichever, as in, or when sounded like A, as in neighbor or way.
Or okay. That's it.
That's it. That's all you need to remember. That is the rule that will be used. It's one of the very few rules in English that I don't know an exception for. There probably is one in Crazy English, but I don't know it.
Okay, I will include this. I will edit the handout and include this one. This is very good. Okay, did you get that? So if it is except for C and except when it sounded like A, neighbor, way. Okay? Did you get that? Remember this one. I'll send it in our chat.
I have to say, Kuya LJ, that I remember saying I before E except after C, but I never learned the second one, so that's new for me too.
Oh.
Maybe I wasn't listening at the time.
Yeah, may I ask question?
Yes, La.
So, what sound like our song, Kuya? Can you give the example?
Like neighbor. E-I.
Me.
Oh, sorry, let me just change this.
Neighbor.
Neighbor, E-I. So what this is saying is normally it should be I-E, right?
Yeah.
I before E. Normally, when you spell a word that's using I and E together, I before E. Except for C, the moment you use C, and the moment you use the word with a sound like A,
Okay.
neighbor, way. So it becomes EI. Did you get that?
Yeah. Okay.
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 All right. Let me send that. Okay. Already. Okay. Thank you, Kuya Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kuyananta, could you read the
Yeah,
next ones?
the second point. Watch out for some commonly misspelled words like commitment, tomorrow, judgment, atheist, argument, conscience, conscience, experience immediately.
Okay, okay. So these are some commonly misspelled words. Commitment is double M. Okay. Tomorrow is double R, not double M. Judgment has no E. Okay.
Hmm.
Atheist. Argument has no E. Conscience, it's like science, and then you put a con. Experience. So I before E. There you go. Immediately. So there's the E. Okay. And there are many more. If you Google it,
Sorry.
We're laughing to you because conscience breaks the rule.
oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh no, that's true. It breaks the rule.
English is crazy.
Okay, so we have an exception right here.
Yes, we do. Oh my goodness.
How
Oh,
about the atheist, Kuya? Atheist.
What's that?
How about the atheist?
Atheist. Also, atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also breaks the rule. Yeah, right.
Two of them.
dear
Yeah,
me.
A-T-E. But then it sounds like E-A-T. It's like atheist. Long E, like E-ist. Atheist. So I don't know what to make of it, but
That is really that's a Greek word that we have taken into English, and so all bets are off when it's a Greek word.
okay.
Atheo is the original that's how you would say it in Greek, theo for God. And so it has the A sound, but English has changed it. It's just crazy. But these are words Christians will use a lot, and I think this is a good list that you have made, Kuya.
Thank you, Priya. So, in other words, when it comes to this, just memorize it, okay? Forget about this rule for a while. Okay. But the good thing is we have spell checkers, right? In Microsoft Word. And when you use Google Docs also. But the thing is, not all the time they are, in my experience, not all the time they will point your mistakes. So, and also not all the time you will be typing your typing. Like in some cases, you will be writing by hand, so you need to know the spelling. Okay, all right. Let's go to the second one. Verb tenses. Now, we already addressed this before in details, right? We had active, passive, but these are some common mistakes that you might want to pay attention to. Let's ask Insam to read them.
Okay. Verb tenses. Did you use past tense when talking about the past? Incorrect. He works for a secular company before coming to IGSL. Correct. He worked for a secular company before coming to IGSL.
Okay, yeah. So if you're talking about the past, very simple. Just use past tense. Next.
Do you have missing the verbs? Incorrect. We
living in a crucial period of history. Correct? We are living in a crucial period of history.
Okay, so make sure when you are using ing as a verb, you use a be verb. Now, the be verb will determine, I know you know this already, but just a reminder, the be verb will determine the tense you're using. So is MR for present, for past. Yeah, good. I saw Ateola's mouth. Was where. Okay. And for future,
In, be,
will be, and
being.
is going to be, right? Is
Be,
going to
be, be been,
be. You don't need to remember that. Um, present perfect. Present perfect.
Been, has been, have
Yes,
been.
sir.
Yeah, very good, Kiananta. Has been, have been. All right, so make sure that your be verbs are not missing because I see this often in your writing. Okay, those are just two most common mistakes in my experience of looking at your papers. Not just you, but other students as well. But there, of course, there are a lot more. Like maybe I should add here passive voice, right? Some students will use passive voice unnecessarily when they're just trying to use that verb for simple past. Yeah, so be careful about that as well. And now let's go to complete sentences. Are your sentences complete? Let me ask La to read it.
Yes, Kuya. Complete sentences. Are all your sentences complete? Do you have dependent clauses not properly joined to an independent clause? Example, in Corinth, missionaries should be willing not to practice their own culture because it would be easier
For them.
for them to contextualize the gospel. A correct sentence. Missionaries should be willing not to practice their own culture because it would be easier for them to contextualize the gospel.
Okay. Yeah,
Need to combine, no?
yeah, you need to combine because this thing is problematic. It starts with because, which is a subordinating conjunction, and it's not joined to to an independent clause. So it should be joined to an independent clause. It cannot stand alone. So that's what we mean by are your sentences complete? So what makes a sentence complete? There must be a subject and a verb. Remember that. And also, it must be an independent clause. That means if you start your sentence with a subordinating conjunction, for example, then you'll have to connect it to a main clause, to an independent clause. And of course, you also have, yeah, that's what we call fragments. Those which look like sentences, but they're not sentences. So when this is very useful to remember, huh? Because Microsoft Word will not tell you your sentence is not complete. It will tell you fragment, consider revising. Okay, it's a very soft suggestion. It should tell you that, oh, your sentence is not complete. Complete it. Yeah, but it's just saying fragment, consider revising. Okay, remember that. When you see that in Microsoft Word, when you're writing your paper, when you write, usually there is a not red line, but green line, green line. And when you right click on it, it will tell you fragment, consider revising. Okay. Okay, later on we're gonna have an exercise on this, so don't worry.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Sure, La.
So what time can we use it because not like subordinate conjunction? Yeah. So
What do you
some of the book I saw they use because in they put the because in the beginning of the sentence.
Yeah, that's okay. As I was saying, okay, let me try to annotate that.
Yeah.
As I was saying, it's okay to use because, okay, because God is good, I will trust Him. Okay. Now, if you look at this one, it's at the beginning, but then it doesn't stand alone. It's connected to an independent clause. I will trust Him. All right. It makes a complete thought, right? I mean, yeah, it makes complete. Yeah, it has a complete thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So whether you put it at the beginning or at the end of the sentence, it doesn't matter as long as you connect it with an independent clause.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. It's also common among. It's also common when some of you would use when. When we went there, okay, it was raining, something like that. So this is problematic because it begins with a subordinating conjunction. Please go back to your list. You remember that we have a lot of subordinating conjunctions, so you need to familiarize yourself with them. When you see this, your sentence starts with a when, a subordinating conjunction. So you cannot use a period right here because it cannot stand alone. It has to be connected to your independent clause. Okay, just like your baby La, um, you cannot let her go outside, right? In fact, you cannot go outside. Sorry, that's a bad illustration. But you cannot let her go to the restroom alone, right?
Yeah.
You have to go with her all the time, because she is dependent on you. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what we
Okay.
need to do.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Kuya.
I just really remember that sheet you handed out that you did yourself. When it is answering the question why or when, it's not going to be the main sentence. I really did like that sheet that you made yourself, Kuya. So all because says is it only tells you why or maybe how, or when. Those will always be dependent, won't they?
Oh, I don't remember that, Kuya. But
Because if you're you say because it would be easier for them to contextualize the message, that's just telling you a why. You'll never have a sentence that does that unless it's a question, of course. So if it's saying why or when, you need to know the main part of the sentence. And you put that in something you gave us, and I really have liked that.
oh, I'll have to look for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is a good point from Kuya Brown. So if it answers the question why, then that clause has to be connected to an independent clause. The same with when. Okay. Thank you, Kuya Brown. I'll have to look for that.
No, I learned it from you, and I have not forgotten it.
Okay, the next one is this is a bit of an opposite, not exactly, but something like that. Um, Sometimes we can have a very long sentence and it's not properly punctuated or connected. So, what do we do with that? This is what we call run on sentences. I know we have already discussed this, but just to sort of review, Ate Failin, could you please read them?
Yes. Run on sentences. Did you have sentences that are improperly improperly joined by commas. Can you use conjunctions to join them together? Or do you need to just separate them with a period? Example,
Examples?
incorrect. Churches in the city are thriving. Churches in the province are not dying. The correct sentence. Churches in the city are thriving, but churches in the province are dying. Another. Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Churches in the city are thriving, while churches in the provinces are dying. All correct. Churches in the city are thriving. However, churches in the provinces are dying.
Okay, so yeah, this is what we mean. Thank you, Ate Filene. This is what we mean when we say, do you have sentences that are improperly joined by commas? Remember that this sentence is illegal in English. Okay, you're committing a crime. So because you have two independent clauses, churches in the cities are thriving. It's an independent clause, it can stand on its own. And you have another one, churches in the provinces are not dying. So the problem with this is that you connect two independent clauses with just a comma. With just a comma. You don't need to be technical about it, actually. It's like, what's the connection between your two sentences? I can't see it. I can't see it. So you have to make it clear for your readers. You have to establish the connection. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to compare or contrast them, right? So you have to use but. If you want to use fanboys, you have to use while. If you want to use subordinating conjunctions, you have to use however. If you want to use, what's that? Transition words. Yeah, I think we call that transition words. Anyway, it's in your list, right? You have plenty of ways, not just one way, to join your sentences, and one of them is not, or comma is not one of them. All right, so please avoid run-on sentences. For clarity, not just for the sake of grammar, punctuation, but also for clarity, you have to make it clear to your readers what's the connection between your two independent clauses. And comma will not make that clear for them. Of course, there's another option. You can smartly use semicolon if the connection is so obvious that your readers can guess it, okay? And you can imply the connection. So you can also use a semicolon instead of using these connecting words. But I would discourage you a bit from using that right now, because I want you to master first the basics of using conjunctions. Is it clear so far?
But do we need to have the comma before but?
Oh, yes, Ate. So
always, right? We always put the comma before but.
right. Thank you for pointing that out, Ate. So for fanboys, when we use fanboys, we have to use a comma before them if we are joining two clauses, okay, two independent clauses. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Actually, that's a good transition to our next point, or last point, which is punctuation. Punctuation. Okay, let's have Grace read the first part. This part. Grace.
Yeah. Punctuation. Did you use punctuation correctly? Are you missing some commas? Remember just we use comma when the next conjunction is at the beginning of a sentence. After we discussing the problem, comma, we realize that we need to design a new system. Before coordinating conjunctions, handboys for and now, but or yet so. The visual atmosphere is important, comma, but we need to consider other structure as well.
Hmm.
After introductory adverbs, therefore, however, moreover, in conclusion, for example, finally, comma, my brother decided to baptize. Also, the before a direct quotation, we should not be afraid of people opposing us because as Christians just means that you have enemies good. That means you put up for something sometimes in your life.
All right. Thank you, Grace. So these are the several ways we use a comma. So before subordinate, if the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence, then you need to use a comma. If it is after, or what I mean is if it's in the last part of the sentence, then there is no need for comma. Although in your books, and in the Bible, for some reason, I don't know, for reasons I don't know, they use a comma before because and other subordinating conjunctions. So this is something I don't want to be so strict about. I don't understand their rules, the rules they're using. But if you want to put a comma after, or like if we try to reverse this, let me try to. Okay, we went to the party after we had our fellowship. Okay, so some books would do something like this. They would use a comma before the subordinating conjunction, and I really don't know why. Also in the Bible, we went to the party because we finished our class already. Okay, or we had finished our class already. So this is something I don't want to be so strict about. So you can do what you want. Yes, Cleo Brown.
I think they should stick with your rule because we had finished our class already is not a sentence, and that will always be considered a sentence, a run-on sentence. I think they should do what you're saying. I would not put a comma there. I know English is getting lazy, but the good schools, and I guess as a Christian, I think we need to try to do so well that they won't dismiss our thoughts because they don't like our grammar. It is hypocritical. They don't want to hear the truth, but we Christians have to be very careful. So, Kuya, I would stick to your guns. I believe we should not put a comma there.
Okay.
Let's do it the old-fashioned way so that people will not think we are ignorant as Christians.
All right, thank you, Kuya. Okay, so let's stick to it. Okay, when using a subordinating conjunction in the second part of the sentence or at the end of the sentence, then don't use a comma. Reserve your commas for the fanboys. Okay?
Correct.
Yeah, like this one. And of course, when we use introductory adverbs as well, yeah, we call them introductory adverbs, transition words. We have several names for it. You can see that in the list I gave you. Remember, I hope you kept that list of transition words in English. If it is at the beginning, you have to put a comma. If it is at the middle, for some reason some writers would put it in the middle. Then you still have to use a comma, but this time it would be a pair of commas. Like for example, my assignment, however, is not yet finished. Okay? Remember our rule when it is an interrupter in English, if you can remove it in the sentence, still makes sense, then put a pair of commas. Okay? Is that clear? 1 comma, 2 comma, before and after.
Yeah.
Otherwise, put it at the beginning and use a comma. All right? There are many of them. There are many of them. Basically, anything, any transition word that we use that are not fanboys, that are not subordinating conjunctions, then that rule applies. Okay? All right. Things are clear with commas?
Yeah.
Yes, La.
After, can you redo last sentence? Yeah.
Sorry?
However, comma, what is it? My assignments, mine is a capital letter or a small letter. Yeah.
Oh, it should be capital. If you use a
Oh,
period, okay, for example, I want to go outside. However, I am still working on my assignment. Or yeah, something like that. So if you use a period, that's one of your options. You have to use capital. But if you use remember we can use, okay, how do I, oh, okay. Remember we can use semicolon,
yes.
semicolon, then no need to capitalize it. However, I'm still blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
Yeah, when you use a semicolon, no need to capitalize it.
okay.
Okay?
I got it, Kuya.
All
Thank you.
right, good. Okay, now let's have Zarish. Please read the next part, quotation marks. Can you just make it smaller? Come on. All right. All right.
Okay. Before a direct quotation, we should not be afraid of people opposing us because, as
Oh,
Whitson
not
Church said,
that one. Zarish, this one. Sorry.
ah, okay, okay. Did you misplace quotation marks? Remember that punctuation marks should come before a quotation mark. Incorrect. Jesus said in Luke 6:31, "Do to others as you would like them to do to you." Correct. Jesus said in Luke 6:31, "Do to others as you would like them to do to you." Incorrect. In Isaiah, Jesus was referred to as Prince of Peace, and in the New Testament, he was referred to as the Son of Man. Correct. In Isaiah, Jesus was referred to as Prince of Peace, and in the New Testament, he was referred to as the Son of Man.
All right. Thank you, Zarish. So remember, this is our rule. Huh? All punctuation marks should come before a quotation mark. So this is wrong, and it should be like this. It doesn't matter if it is a question mark, if it is a comma, it should come before the quotation mark. All right. Now, it's not totally wrong. You might see it in your books as well. And you might say that, oh, what is Kuya Alji saying? Why am I saying this kind of this kind of placement, punctuation marks placement? It's not totally wrong. It depends on the standard we are using. So some because we're using Turabian and I think that's Chicago. I forgot. We're using a certain standard in IGSL. So your professors want you to write this way. Okay, punctuation mark before the quotation mark. But I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying this is wrong. Huh? Some standards are using this one. So just be aware. Just be aware. But for us, we will try to use the second one. Okay. Yes, Kuya Brown.
It is the same thing as before. No one will ever say it's wrong to do it the way you're suggesting, and some people will say it is wrong to do it the other way. So if you just remember to always put the punctuation inside the quotation mark, no one can ever say it's wrong. Even when they use the other standard, they will acknowledge that this one is traditionally correct. So it's easier just to get the one rule in your head and always do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kuya Brown. Stick to that rule, to traditional rules. All right. Any questions?
Kuya, sorry, here is Danish.
Hi, Danish.
Yeah, actually, I'm used to sometimes. Actually, in Word software, when we do this, when we use the second, the first one, sometimes he just there is a line, and the word Microsoft said, "Oh, it's wrong." So it shows inside. Beside the line sometimes. So how can we then we have to setting the Microsoft Word, because I know last time when I was just writing my paper and I did this and there was a sign, oh, it's wrong.
The second one?
No, yeah, the first one.
Oh, the first one. Okay. Well, maybe Microsoft Word is following the same standard we're using.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this is the Arabian style as well. So that's
yeah,
what we're using in
ninth edition, especially edition 9th. They said I know when Kuya Carlo was teaching us, he just gave us the same rule in critical thinking and writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much for clarification again.
Yeah, that's affirming. Thank you, Danish. Okay. Now let's. Some students will also confuse semicolon for a colon. They're different. They're different, huh? So, in some, could you please read them?
Did you confuse semicolon with a colon? Incorrect sentence. Watch out for 3 common mistakes in grammar. Misuse of your and your, lack of agreement between subjects and verbs, and most importantly, misuse of semicolon. Correct. Watch out for 3 common mistakes in grammar. Misuse of your in your, misuse of semicolon.
Okay. Did you spot the mistake there? So this one, it's instead of using a colon, he used a semicolon. And the funny thing is, the reason why we're laughing is he mentioned the misuse of semicolon, and he's violating his own rule, right? He mentioned he mentioned the misuse of semicolon, and yet he misused it right here. So if you are introducing a list within your sentence, then you can use a colon. Don't use a semicolon. Okay, sorry about that. Why do we have to deal with, colon, semicolon? I wish English had not come up with something like this, but it did, right? So we just have to familiarize ourselves with this.
Sorry.
That is
Kuya?
Yes.
our language, Kuya.
Oh, the same in your language?
Yeah, very familiar. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good, Ate. Yes, Kuya.
Kuya, excuse me.
I think.
Kuya, excuse me.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, Imsung, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Kuya. I mm, actually semicolon as well as a colon, and then I have not mentioned about this right in the sentence. So am I supposed to mention as I read out the sentence words?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Because we don't normally mention, okay, colon.
Like
That's
Kuya, watch out three
common mistakes. Yeah, it's okay, Imsung. Yeah, it's okay. Although it would have been good if you had if you had read it. Okay, Kuya Brown, did you want to say something?
Yes, I think that now did someone write these sentences? Where did this come from?
It's from the internet, Kuya.
Because I think that they have not followed the rule for interrupters. You know, I agree with you that when you read this correct sentence on the bottom, the word most importantly is really an interrupter. So it needs to have a comma before the most as well as after, because you can take that out and the sentence does not really change. And I would have said, watch out for the 3 common mistakes in grammar, colon, misuse of your and your, comma, lack of agreement between subjects and verbs, and comma, most importantly, comma, misuse of semicolon, because that is simply an interrupter.
Right. Noted. Yeah, you're right. So Kuya Brown is pointing this out. This is an interrupter, right? So that means you can take it out from the sentence and still the sentence will be the same. I mean, will have the same meaning. It's just for emphasis. The thing is, he did not use a comma right here, and comma, most importantly, comma. So yeah, very, very small mistake that our grammar expert Kuya promised to identify. Thank you, Kuya.
Now you know why they will not want me proofreading their material.
I don't think so. They would want to have you such eye for.
Well, you know, when they do give me their paper, what I do though is I don't change it for them. What I do is I will highlight where they need to make a change with the function that allows them to learn as they then make their final copy. I think that's a better tool.
Yes, I would agree, Kuya. Yeah, so that they can proofread it themselves. All right. So we are done with proofreading. Now, time for some exercise. So I'm going to give you an hour of a working break. So what we're going to do is, okay, let me just give me a moment. I forwarded a document to you, Google document. Okay, you can check your emails. All right, this one. So proofreading exercise, for example, if you received, yeah, you are divided basically into 3 groups. So open it. And here it is. So instructions are the following paragraphs have errors, some errors in them. So what do you need to do? You need to identify these errors and correct them accordingly using some proofreading techniques that you have learned. So it's a short, but there might be 20 mistakes. I don't know for sure. So it's for you to figure out. Okay, so you'll be doing it as a group. I think it's going to be all ladies and all men. Yeah, there you go. Atiola is in it already. So it
Hello,
will be
Kuya.
all. What, love?
Can you make a small subgroup in here for us?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I can do that. Okay, but if some of you prefer using Facebook or whatever, it's up to you. But I will create the subgroups. Thank you, La, for pointing that out. So we got 3 rooms, 2 rooms. Okay, I'll create 2 rooms, and if Kuya Brown would want to join any room, he can do so. I will also be coming in unannounced just to listen to you guys while you're discussing. Okay. All right. In the meantime, you can take your break. So let's come back at 11 o'clock, okay? Take your break. Maybe you can take a 10-minute break, stand up, drink your coffee, and then come back and as a group work on it. Okay, so breakout group number 1. Okay.
Yeah, you have asked for me.
Yes, Grace. So you can take a 10-minute break and then you can decide among yourselves. I'll be dividing you right now into groups. Okay.
Okay.
And, oh, okay. Let me.
Do we need to go out there?
No, it will be, I want you to try to use online groups. Okay. So let's try that right now. I'll be dividing you,
Okay.
and you can talk among yourselves. Okay, give me 10 minutes, for example. I'll just do this. Yeah. But come back at 11 o'clock. All right? And we will be discussing your exercise. Okay. See you later. Oh, no, sorry.